Welcome to When Gen X Ruled the Multiplex, the films that shaped the MTV generation. Today I'm looking at 1989's Do the Right Thing, the third feature written and directed by Spike Lee, following She's Gotta Have It and School Days. Widely considered a masterpiece, Do the Right Thing is included in the National Film Registry and has been deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically important by the Library of Congress. All of this may make it sound like it might be very good for you, but a bit of a chore to get through, like eating a bowl of raw kale. But Do the Right Thing also happens to be beautifully filmed, filled with great performances, and highly entertaining. Over the opening credits, Fight the Power by Public Enemy plays while Rosie Perez, then best known as a dancer on Soul Train, performs a frantic and energetic dance routine. Perez would go on to be the choreographer for The Fly Girls on Fox's In Living Color and has appeared in many films, including White Men Can't Jump and Fearless, for which she received a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Fight the Power was written by Public Enemy specifically for Do the Right Thing, and it was a huge hit in the summer of 1989, reaching #1 on the Hot Rap Singles chart. Last year it was ranked #2 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. On a block on Stuyvesant Avenue in the Bedford-Stuyvesant, better known as Bed-Stuy, neighborhood of Brooklyn, a DJ named Mr. Senior Love Daddy wakes up the neighborhood on a scorching hot summer day. Mr. Senior Love Daddy is played by Samuel L. Jackson, years before his rise to fame in Pulp Fiction and the Star Wars prequels and many other films. Bed-Stuy is a majority black neighborhood with a sizable Italian-American population, and we meet some of the residents. These include a gentle drunk known as DeMayor, played by the great Ossie Davis, a learning-impaired man known as Smiley, who raises money by selling hand-decorated photos of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and who is played by frequent Spike Lee collaborator Roger Guinevere Smith, and a young man named Mookie, who lives with his sister Jade and works as a pizza delivery man. Jade is played by Joey Lee, while Mookie is played by her real-life brother, Spike Lee. An Italian-American man named Sal opens up his pizzeria with the help of his adult sons, Pino and Vito. Sal is played by the late Danny Aiello, who received an Oscar nomination for this role. Pino is played by Miller's Crossing and Barton Fink star John Turturro, whom we have seen in Desperately Seeking Susan, while Vito is played by former Sonic Youth drummer Richard Edson, whom we have seen in small yet memorable roles in Desperately Seeking Susan, Howard the Duck, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Mookie strolls through the neighborhood on his way to work. He's greeted by various neighbors, including Mother's sister, who is played by screen legend Ruby Dee. Sal's Pizza Parlor is a fixture of the neighborhood. While oldest son Pino is an abrasive jerk, Sal is easygoing and friendly. When DeMayor stops by looking for a handout, Sal assigns him odd jobs in exchange for some cash. We get to know a great many residents of this particular block, including a group of young friends. Punchy, played by Leonard L. Thomas, Ella, played by Krista Rivers, Ahmad, played by Steve White, and C, played by Martin Lawrence, who would go on to star in the Fox sitcom Martin. We also meet Radio Raheem, played by the late Bill Nunn. Radio Raheem always carries around a very large boombox, which is always blasting Fight the Power. Across the street from Sal's is a bodega run by a young Korean couple. Sonny, played by Steve Park, who is a regular on In Living Color, and his wife Kim, played by Ginny Yang. We meet Mookie's off-and-on girlfriend Tina, with whom he has a toddler son. Tina is played by Rosie Perez. We also meet a trio of middle-aged guys who always sit outside, swapping gossip about the neighborhood. These are ML, played by Paul Benjamin, Sweet Dick Willie, played by comedian Robin Harris, whose stand-up act inspired the animated feature Bebe's Kids, which was released after his early death from a heart attack in 1990, and Coconut Sid, played by Frankie Faison, who has popped up in everything from Silence of the Lambs to The Wire. And we meet Mookie's perpetually aggrieved friend Buggin' Out, who is played by Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito, whom we've also seen in Desperately Seeking Susan, and who is one of those actors who I am always thrilled to see in absolutely everything he does, dating back to his very early Miami Vice appearances. Buggin' Out orders a slice of pizza from Sal. He pitches a fit when he notices that Sal's Hall of Fame, which features the photos of prominent Italian-American celebrities like Travolta, Pacino, De Niro, Liza Minnelli, and Frank Sinatra, does not feature any black celebrities in a predominantly black neighborhood. Sal refuses to take him seriously and asks Mookie to throw him out. While out on a pizza delivery, Mookie chats with DeMayor, who tells him to always do the right thing. Everyone's cranky and miserable from the heat, so Ahmad and his friends open up a fire hydrant so they can all cool off in the water. A local Italian-American man named Charlie, played by The Sopranos' Frank Vincent, yells at Ahmad because he doesn't want his car to get wet, so Ahmad redirects the hydrant spray to soak Charlie. Charlie flags down a patrol car and tries to get the officer officers to arrest everyone involved. The patrol officers are Officer Ponte, played by Miguel Sandoval, and Officer Long, played by Danny Aiello's son, Rick Aiello. The heat builds and tempers flare. A cluster of Puerto Rican residents get into a showdown with Radio Rahim, blasting salsa music in an attempt to drown out Fight the Power. Buggin' Out picks a fight with a white guy who lives in the neighborhood, played by Deer Hunter star John Savage, who accidentally scuffs Buggin' Out's kicks. Ahmad and his friends harass DeMayer for being a drunk. Pino, who feels Mookie wastes too much time at work, uses a racial slur in Mookie's presence. Mookie calls Pino out for his hypocrisy in worshipping black celebrities like Prince and Magic Johnson and Eddie Murphy while constantly denigrating black people as a whole. Radio Rahim walks into Sal's while blasting Fight the Power, but Sal refuses to serve him because his music is too loud. Jade and Sal have a sweetly flirtatious friendship, but Mookie, who is getting increasingly fed up with all the crap he takes from Pino, yells at Sal to stay away from his sister. Mookie and Sal's previously close relationship deteriorates. Meanwhile, romance blooms between DeMayer and mother-sister. In real life, Ruby Dee and Ossie Davis were married from 1948 until Davis's death in 2005. Both recipients of the National Medal of Arts and Kennedy Center honors, they were also both active in the civil rights movement and were personal friends of both Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Mookie delivers a pizza to Tina as a pretext for some sexy times. They cuddle in bed and try to cool down by running ice cubes over sensitive body parts. Radio Rahim and Buggin' Out decide to organize a neighborhood boycott of Sal's, and Smiley decides to join them. As Sal tries to close the pizza place for the night, Radio Rahim, Buggin' Out, and Smiley burst in, blasting Fight the Power, and demand that Sal include black notables on his wall of fame. A shouting match ensues. In a fit of wild anger, Sal hurls a racial slur at Buggin' Out and smashes Radio Rahim's boombox to bits with a baseball bat. This turns into a brawl that spills onto the sidewalk, and everyone on the block gets involved. The police arrive to make arrests, and Officer Long chokes Radio Rahim to death with his nightstick. When the police leave, the crowd is more riled up than ever before. Anger over Radio Rahim's killing is directed at Sal and his sons, despite DeMayer's attempts to calm everyone down. Mookie, filled with an exasperated weariness, picks up a garbage can and hurls it through the front window of Sal's. While it's unclear whether this was Mookie's goal, his action directs the crowd anger away from Sal and onto the restaurant, which gets completely trashed and set on fire, while Sal, Pino, and Vito are left unharmed. The crowd then turns their anger towards Sonny's bodega, but Sonny convinces them to leave it alone. Firefighters and cops in riot gear arrive to quell the uprising. In the burning ruin of Sal's, Smiley posts a photo of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X on the Hall of Fame. In the morning, the block is wrecked. Mookie wakes to yet another hot day, in bed with Tina and their son. He heads out to collect his final pay from Sal, who is sitting outside the burned-out shell of his restaurant. Mookie and Sal have an acrimonious encounter, but they seem to be more or less okay with each other by the end of their conversation. The film ends with a pair of quotes, one from Martin Luther King about how an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind, and one from Malcolm X about how violence used in self-defense is intelligence. And those two opposing views span the entire conversation about Do the Right Thing. DeMayer, who represents the film's moral core, advises Mookie to always do the right thing, but the situation is so complicated that we don't know what the right thing is or whether Mookie eventually does it. Spike Lee never tips his hand as to which of those two quotes should guide viewers, because there's no simple answer to an issue as complicated as race relations in America. Even within the narrow scope of the film, race relations aren't even as straightforward as white versus black. At one point, there's a montage in which multiple characters air their grievances about various racial or ethnic or cultural groups directly at the camera, and there are a lot of grievances to go around. Everyone's got something to say about someone who isn't them. Do the Right Thing was critically praised upon release, but it made some critics fret that it would provoke violence, specifically that black viewers would riot upon seeing it. Those fears were unfounded. There was no mob violence in the wake of the film's release, nor did it ever seem likely. This is not a film designed to rile people up. It's a film designed to make you think, okay, how did that happen? How did the residents of this one block in Bed-Stuy go from mostly peaceful coexistence to violence, chaos, and death within a matter of days? One thing the film does extraordinarily well is trace exactly how that happened. Do the Right Thing has a sprawling cast of characters, and each character does their part, big or small, in contributing to the factors that lead to that explosive climax. The crippling heat wave plays a part as well. New York summers are legendarily stifling and uncomfortable. I used to live in Queens, and my sister would compare our summers to wearing a heavy wool coat while sitting in a jacuzzi. We would spend entire summers being very mad at everything. It's tough to keep a cool head in New York in July or August, and we can see how the various microaggressions depicted in the film, the guy scuffing bugging-out shoes, Sal's refusal to hang any black celebrity photos on the wall, Pino's insistence that Mookie is cheating his family's business by not working hard enough, are tougher to shrug off when you're already feeling exhausted and irritable. Do the Right Thing is dedicated to the families of 6 Black New Yorkers who died due to violence. Eleanor Bumpurs, Arthur Miller, Edmund Perry, Yvonne Smallwood, and Michael Stewart were killed by police, and Michael Griffith was killed outside a pizza parlor in Queens after being attacked by a group of white men. Watching Do the Right Thing today provokes a feeling that time is circular, and instead of moving forward, we always return to the same spot. The death of Radio Raheem at the hands of Officer Long reminds us of the recent killings by neck compression and suffocation of George Floyd and Eric Garner. Spike Lee has pointed out in interviews that apart from small details like Radio Raheem's ginormous boombox, Do the Right Thing seems like it takes place in the Brooklyn of today. While it was widely praised upon release, Do the Right Thing was largely snubbed by the Academy. Very notoriously, it was denied nominations for Best Picture and Best Director. Adding insult to Spike Lee's injury, Best Picture that year went to Driving Miss Daisy, which provided viewers with a much less complex look at race relations in America. Do the Right Thing has had the last word, though. Its reputation as one of the greatest films of all time has only grown stronger. In Brooklyn, the stretch of Stuyvesant Avenue between Quincy and Lexington, where the film was shot, is now officially named Do the Right Thing Way. The film has impacted viewers in ways large and small. As just one example, in 1989, a recent Harvard Law graduate named Barack went to a screening of Do the Right Thing on his first date with a fellow lawyer named Michelle. Spike Lee has quipped that if the future first couple had gone to see Driving Miss Daisy instead, there might not have been a second date. Next time, we're looking at Brian De Palma's violent and cocaine-fueled masterpiece, Scarface. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you then.